Hello folks, Cal Kellogg, Executive Editor of the Fish Sniffer magazine here, and today I want to talk about one of my favorite rigs, and if you're not familiar with this rig, you should be. This is a cornerstone rig that you can use in both freshwater and saltwater. It's definitely more popular in freshwater, but it definitely has applications in saltwater as well. And what I'm talking about, bass guys like to call this, let me put the rod down here. By the way, we're out at Rollins Lake today, and we're going to do some drifting for trout and bass, but anyway, bass guys call this a Carolina rig, and basically it's a sliding sinker rig. Your basic Carolina rig consists of these components. You have a sliding sinker on your main line, so this is going back to the reel, back to the rod tip, followed by a bead. Let me get this a little closer so you can see it. A barrel swivel, a leader, which should always be fluorocarbon line, and a hook. Now, on the business end of this, you could put various things. I talked about bass fishermen using the Carolina rig. Obviously, they're going to use a bigger hook than this. They're going to use a tube, a grub, a worm. You're going to fire that out, get into deep water, and you're just going to drag that rig. Trout fishermen, we use this rig too. We call it a sliding sinker rig, but we're going to put a piece of floating dough bait on the hook. It's going to float up off the bottom, or we're going to put a inflated worm, night crawler, whatever on there. In saltwater, I use the same basic rig, but I might be using 50-pound test on the leader, a big old 10-aught hook, and a 6 to 8-inch grub. If I have a drift on the ocean, that's a very effective rig. But if you want to go heavier, with this, you know, your sliding weights, they're available in weights up to about an ounce. And as an aside, you'll see some guys use a traditional round egg sinker up here. I don't like to do that. I find that they snag more, so I like to use the black bass style tapered weights regardless of whether I'm fishing for trout or bass or whatever. So freshwater up to an ounce, this works real well. But here's a variation of the Carolina rig. Steelhead guys will be familiar with this, but this is actually my favorite way to rig this. Instead of using the hollow sinker, the rig is the same, except instead of threading the sinker on the line, I've put in a snap swivel on the main line, followed by the bead, followed by a barrel swivel and the leader, but I snapped the weight on here. That gives me some important benefits. One, the line slides through there much easier than it does through a weight, and I can also upsize. I can go well beyond an ounce. This is actually the rig I'd be using in saltwater. I might have a 4, 8, 12, 16-ounce sinker here hanging on the line, but it's going to give me that freedom of movement on the line, and it's going to get me down where I need to be. There's two benefits to having the sinker slide. One, I get direct drive. I can feel bites come right through the weight to my hand with the rod. Also, if I'm fishing for fish that are going to run with the bait, like trout or something with live bait, whatever, I can open the bail on the reel, let the fish run, the sinker's going to stay in place, and the fish can take off, not feel any resistance, and then when I feel the time's right, I'll set the hook. So, bottom line is, if you're not using a Carolina rig, you should be. It's one of the cornerstone rigs in freshwater and saltwater fishing. So, if you're not using it, get some terminal tackle, experiment a little bit, and you'll find that this rig will put a lot of fish in the boat regardless of where you're fishing. Catch me next time. This has been another video podcast. Cal Kellogg signing off.